He doesn't know it.
Oh, look at this.
We're
You already
live.
went live and you didn't even say we're live.
We're live. Hey, we're live.
We are alive. We very much so.
And why don't you introduce our guest tonight, Ken? Because we were smitten with him the other day. Rob made quite the impression. So
Yes.
why don't you let everybody know? And I will share this out while you're doing it.
Hey, Glenn, would you mind sharing this out?
Not at all. That's why I mentioned it.
Oh. We have fun. Definitely have fun. So we have Rob.
We're live. Hey,
Hey,
we're
you guys
live.
turn the
Christian.
volume
So,
down.
yeah.
I know. I'm doing it.
I can mute you.
No, I already did it.
Hey, Scott Ricard is on. Larry Schneider's on. Says Glenn Morshower. Oh, you have it open. So we have Rob Cornelis joining us tonight. Rob was on my show the other day. Did I say your name right? Cornelis.
Yeah, perfect.
I'm always nervous about.
You know what? Here's what I think about Rob. You could have grotesquely mispronounced it, and he's such a nice guy. He would have said, "That's correct. That's correct." We've got on our show tonight Rob Corniles, Mr. Rob Corniles, and he would have gone, "That's correct." And you're brilliant, Ken.
Because I'll do anything to be on your show. So.
Oh, that's hilarious.
It's funny.
You should share this out on your Facebook page, and maybe your son would see it. And
yeah. I'm embarrassed to say I'm not sure how to do that, but
I need to.
Well, you're about to become one of Ken's students. He's a master tutorial.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey,
Joe Ingram, yes, we are live. Glenn Morshower just shared it. Thank you, Glenn. Oh, well, you're right there. Thank you.
Yes, I did.
Jose, look at this. We have Carrie Lynn in the house. She hates it when I say Carrie Lynn.
You're talking about Carrie Lynn Carter? There she is.
Yeah. Take the Lynn out then. So, wow, you're posting it to all your acting school places.
Yes, I am. I am, because I want people to be a part of this discussion, brother.
I just went to go live on Amazon a little bit ago and ran into a massive technical issue, and I couldn't connect, and I don't know why, and it drove me crazy, and I literally started banging my head against the desk, and then Glenn sent me a text and said, "Hey, you want to go live?"
Would you like to vent publicly? I think is what I said.
I know. Yeah. So I'm here. I'm good.
You would think that a guy sitting out there at his beachfront property wouldn't really be irritated by such minuscule matters, but here you are, genuinely upset.
Joe Ingram, I'm not now. I was. Joe Ingram shared it with the authorities. So, Rob, to share this, if you open up your phone and you go to my Facebook page.
Do you want on my phone or my computer?
Either one works.
Okay.
And then you can just go to my page, and underneath you'll see the video. Underneath that, you just click that button that says share, and then share public, and boom, it's done.
And by the way, I really apologize. What's your name again?
Mine. Wow.
And this is why I like Rob. Thank him for stopping by.
Would you stopping by, Rob?
That's how we treat people who get uppity on the show, Rob. We just talk them.
Hey, Ken, I'm on your page. Tell me again what to do on your page.
Scroll down to where you see this video, and underneath there's a little link that says share.
Okay.
You click that button and then share it out.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you for sharing.
While we're waiting for Rob to share this out, Ken, just a random piece of useless information. I am uncharacteristically well rested today. Just want to throw that in, that I took the entire day to rest from what was a week of being short slept the entire time. There's Yasmin Ryback.
There's
live,
yeah,
live from Atlanta, GA.
From Atlanta, hot Atlanta.
So, Atlanta. Rob, Yasmin is one of my students from the workshop that just left the Dallas area for expanding her career in Atlanta because that's where so much of the work has traveled from Los Angeles. And currently, the state of Georgia is number one in the world for movies over California. These are legitimate stats, and they are second in the world in television production. So
that's because the state of Georgia has provided tax policy that makes it easy for production companies to come in and do their thing, right? I mean, they've given terrific incentives.
It's entirely about the tax incentives. It's not that they ran to Georgia because it's prettier than California. It is motivated by the almighty dollar, and they've been very smart, very smart.
Yeah, and
Rob, you were going to share with us off the air, and I said, why don't we have you share on the air some of the movies you starred in, and
and make sure that Rob knows our topic tonight so that he can weave whatever he wants to share.
What is it?
The topic.
Mental override, how to raise something. Oh, hold on. How to raise your energy. That's it. I could only see part. Never mind. I got it. It's mental override, how to raise your energy.
The idea, Rob, just generally speaking, is because Ken came up with how to raise your energy. And I said by creating a mental override. And what I mean by that is simply not succumbing to the environment and deciding that they're going to make your decisions for you. I've learned this in show business. Arnold Schwarzenegger, one of his greatest teachings of his 5 big success tips, he says you have to ignore the naysayers. And I had the privilege of doing a film with Arnold, so I got to really dig deep with him in person on this topic. And he says so many successful people have had to create a mental override that frankly ignored the naysayers. And the masses were holding on to their chronic opinionitis. This is an expression that I've coined over the years, and that we have to learn to ignore the chronic opinionitis of the naysayers and hold true to our core beliefs. And in doing so, we create a mental override for belief systems like, for example, the starving actor. Says who? Says who? Because I don't agree with that. And the moment I co-sign that belief, I'm dead in the water. So it begins with what not to co-sign. I want to say that again. It begins with what not to co-sign. We are given so many opportunities in this lifetime to co-sign existing belief systems, and at least 50% of them are garbage. We have to be careful of what we co-sign, because the minute we co-sign, we are under its grasp or in its grasp.
Well, can I ask you about that? Because
how are we avoiding Rob's stories?
We're not. But we're ramping into that.
We'll weave into it. I just want to ask, though, Glenn, this question about refusing to co-sign the naysayers. As I understand the entertainment business, and I'll talk a little bit about how that's really where I began my career out of university, out of college. But Glenn, what's often frustrated me about that business, the business that you had a 40+ year career in, is that so often.
Did you just say had?
Have.
Oh, jeez.
I thought maybe you had an announcement for me that I was unaware of.
So how do you maintain that attitude when it appears that so much of the business and one's success in it is dependent on the selection that other people make? They decide if you've got the look, if you're the right height, and some of the people that are making those decisions seem so ill qualified to do so.
Yes.
But they've got that title of casting director. And so, they might not like the way, you shaved today or didn't shave, or
right,
the way you part your hair, or whatever it may be, or the clothes you wear. But in very few industries and professions is so much dependent on one person's whim And how did you go through a 41 plus career and not sign those naysayers, and still maintain your success? Because if they don't like you, you don't get the part.
Well, I think that you will understand my answer with ease. In fact, I'm going to give you stronger credit and use a stronger word. I think you will stand my answer. Let me clarify. To understand would suggest that I somehow stand higher than you, and when I share it with you, you'll get it. I don't believe that. I believe that I'm looking eye to eye when I talk with you. I figured that out when I listened to you the other day, that you're a very, very smart man. So if I say something, you will stand versus understand. Does that make sense? I even think there's a third word that needs to be introduced here, was when someone tries to tell something to somebody and it turns out the somebody they're talking to knows more about the topic than they do, and they were the ones who foolishly were going to try to download information to a person that knows more, then it turns out when they say, do you understand? The correct response is, no, I don't understand. I overstand. Isn't that a great word?
Yep.
To overstand someone. So I got from your talking, and you went to Brigham Young and so forth, and the number of children you have, and I was able to piece together some things because I'm not an idiot. And so it occurred to me that you're a man of faith, which I too am a man of faith, which is where my answer comes from. Because I happen to believe that those are all human rules. And I believe there's something stronger than that available to us that governs us all. And I think we either tap into it or we don't. And I think it's a lot like pregnancy. There is no middle ground. You're either pregnant or you're not. Mm-hmm. You either tap into this energy or you don't. And I think this will weave right into our discussion, because I think it is that energy that creates an override where these things are far less important. They are rendered far less important. We've seen this time and time again with people like, for example, Spud Webb. Spud Webb had to tap into an energy that ignored all of the naysayers that his 5'6" height would be an issue in the NBA. I'm sure there are many people who, I bet he was laughed at in droves when that was, his dream. And so I believe that at the end of the day, and I'm sure you know this to be true in sales, people are responding to energy. Above all else, the energy that you are running through you is either something that induces or repels. It attracts or it repels. And when we run that energy combined with knowledge of the craft, so I'm not suggesting that the energy alone gets the job done, because you can be as evolved as you want energetically, but if you have no craft, you're still a goofball on camera and they're not going to hire your butt. But if you know what you're doing and what's running through you is an unstoppable amount of light that realizes its connection with its fellow man, and in doing so obliterates concepts such as competition. I don't allow my students to compete. It's one of the first things they learn in the workshop, is the only competition you will be experiencing on my watch is you competing with previous versions of yourself, but never with anyone in this class, ever. I don't care about who does the best scene of the week. At the end of the day, it's meaningless. So this is, I've been making movies 45 years, and this is where that comes from, is I believe that there are higher laws that are immutable, by the way, and we allow our lives to be led at all times, and we're being pulled toward that energy, and it has such an inclusivity about it. If it's exclusive, I think we've missed the mark. If we think that we're a member of some club that is excluding others right and left, we probably missed the mark. But if it invites us to include and connect, then I hold the belief, and I do mean this, Rob, I believe that there's nothing we can't do. I really believe that. So that's where it comes from.
Well, what I'm learning from what you're saying is that you cannot succumb to putting your fate into someone else. someone who doesn't know you, someone who may not be qualified to make a judgment on you.
Correct.
You have to have enough confidence in your own abilities and be grounded in something that even if this particular audition doesn't go well and you don't get that dream part that you were hoping for,
Right.
you have to have enough confidence in yourself that you will overcome that disappointment.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, also the realization that sometimes things aren't meant to be, and that that confidence comes because you're a man of faith too, Glenn. That confidence comes in the assurance that your path, not that it's predestined, but your
Mm-hmm.
path is being observed. And so if you stay true to yourself, as I alluded to yesterday, I think that you can't help but receive some divine assistance.
Correct.
Glenn, I think this would be a really, really good time for you to talk about this.
Okay. May I ask? The answer is yes, of course. But may I ask for a slight delay?
Yeah,
Just
I
a
just
slight
would
delay
love,
because I think we're into something that I want to.
yeah,
I want
but
to
I think
explore
that
deeper.
ties in. I think it ties in.
I agree with you. I
with
agree with you that it does, and it also happened in Rob City.
Did it really?
Well, Rob, where do you live now? Do you live in Salt Lake or Provo?
Well, I live actually in a community called Saratoga Springs, which is kind of in between.
Okay. So the story he wants me to tell took place in downtown Salt Lake City in the fall of 2000. Before I tell that, I was writing while you were saying, because one of the things that we do on this show that I think helps tremendously is on our Sunday night show that we do with Scott McCain called the Ken and Glenn Show with a guy named Scott. When one of the two of us are talking, no matter who it is, if the others have something that gets triggered, I think it's a really good idea to write it down. That way you don't have to interrupt, and it will have been logged so you don't forget how you wanted to piggyback. And that's what I was doing. You said a couple of things that really triggered, and I wanted to respectfully not interrupt, but I wanted to write down. So you mentioned the word audition. You referenced it, and I wrote it down as soon as you said it. So what if? Can you play what if with me?
Sure.
What if we get rid of that word entirely? It's worth getting rid of, I'll promise you. Mm-hmm. And I've been teaching this particular technique for 36 years. Like I said, I started when I was 25. And what I discovered is that I could teach people to rip that page out of their playbook and that they would begin working a lot more. Allow me to prove it with a very simple analogy. If you were a younger man, notice I said younger and not young, just younger. If you were a younger man, and let's say you were in your 20s and you were getting married this week, and you had not yet crossed paths. In fact, getting married a week from today, August the 8th is your wedding day. You have not yet crossed paths with your in-laws to be. And they are flying in town Thursday for the rehearsal dinner Friday and the wedding on Saturday. On Thursday, do you want to meet them or audition for them? Do you hear the difference?
Yeah.
So I teach actors that they are going on meetings and get rid of this term audition because it is dreadful. It has a dreadful associated subservience. There is an associated subservience that connotes the term proving, And here's the thing. In our business, I teach them early on, this is a playing ground, not a proving ground. What a difference. And I think that this stems well beyond show business. I think we see it in life. In life, we see so many people caught up in proving. Guys drive big fancy cars because they have something to prove. or a big watch that's worn so that you can prove, or a corporate title that's surrounded by everything so that you can prove. And at the end of the day, if you trip off the top of an office building, the terminal velocity will carry you to the cement the same it does anybody, right? So it doesn't care. Gravity doesn't care about your lofty title or your bank account or, whatever your deal is. And so when I got out of that mindset, and I really wasn't in the proving mindset, but I'm saying when I made that mental divorce from auditioning to, I'm going on a meeting today. This is a meeting. The other thing is auditions don't take place on a level playing field. Meetings do. Auditions, there is an admitted subservience where you're thinking, oh my God, if you like me enough, and you're sort of looking up at the others in the room. And I thought the person who books, meaning, closes the deal, is the person who's looking straight across, not the person who's looking up. I don't want anyone that I meet looking up to me or down at me. And I find both equally annoying, by the way. I want people to look straight across because that communicates to me that they have a sense of belonging. And I got to tell you, from years of being in the business, this is what producers, directors, executive producers, and casting people are drawn to. They want to see someone that walks into the room that they know, Rob, unequivocally and instantaneously is there to grab the friggin' bull by the horns, and that it's purely an add water and stir situation. We're not going to have to do anything. All we got to do is just put the costume on this cat and watch him run, baby. Sports teams dream of having people like this, where you're literally watching energy and light enter the room. Why? Because the person knows exactly who they are. And they are not in the room to prove anything. They have already given up all concerns as to whether or not you hire them. That is unimportant to me. That is a byproduct. What I'm concerned about is one thing only. Did I bring my A game to the batter's plate? Did I do that? As long as I did that, whatever they do is none of my business nor my concern. And I'm convinced that's why I've worked a lot. Mm-hmm. And my agent said, Bubba, you got to teach this stuff. And that is why I went into coaching audition mastery, because I realized that what was happening was a healthy mindset was being rewarded and consistently, so that you could no longer call it a fluke. You couldn't say, well, that's just woo-woo spiritual stuff, so get over yourself. And then I'm thinking, well, it keeps getting better and better and better over the years. And as I started teaching it, things increased even for me, because I think it's impossible to benefit others without simultaneously benefiting from what you're giving to others. So this is what I believe in. And I believe that mindset, and it's really a heart-mind combination, that when we lead with the purity of our heart and we develop the craft, again, that's why we get into the aspects of it. Anyway, it's a very long-winded answer, but
well, it's not long-winded because it's all helpful. And so it was a complete answer to my question. So I thank you for that, Glenn. A couple of thoughts that I've written down. Sure. And I know a lot of people are expressing their thoughts and appreciation right now for what you just shared. So I also want to agree with you that the term audition, as I heard you talk about it, does come across to me as being disingenuous. Mm-hmm. It's not genuine. It's me putting on a role, playing a role for you. And I hope I'm properly anticipating what role you want me to play. Mm-hmm. It's very much a subservient position that one puts themselves in. So, and I haven't attended your class, obviously, but from the get-go, you're at a disadvantage when you have that attitude.
Well, you haven't needed to attend my class because you're too busy already living what I teach.
Well, I hope I am. I hope I can. The other thing that you've said that reminds me of something that I try to communicate to my clients and the people that we train. And that is, I actually use the actor's example of walking into an audition, and I will change that term from this point on. But I've said to my client, to our salespeople who are decision makers, even if it's a CEO who has to now address their board or their shareholder meeting, I say an actor, an actress, when they walk into that historically termed audition,
Mm-hmm.
they're fearful, they're shaking, they recognize this could be their shot or it could be the end of their career. But what they don't understand, at least this is what I've gathered, having worked in Los Angeles with around the entertainment business, they don't understand is that with few exceptions, the casting director, if we can call that person the casting director, they want you to be the one.
Yes, they do.
Because if you're the one, you just made their life so much simpler. And you're going to make them look brilliant. Because they want to be the one who says, I discovered this talent. Or they want to be the one who can claim, yes, I was the genius that put these actors together to create a fantastic ensemble.
Mm-hmm.
And so they want you to be the one. And so I say to people walking into a tough sales meeting or into a shareholder meeting where they have to give some bad news, or to what we call an all hands meeting when all of the employees are gathered wondering why there's been an impromptu meeting called.
Mm-hmm.
You have to walk into that environment recognizing that people want you to be successful. They want you to communicate something that's going to better their lives or their business or their circumstances. Nobody wants a bad meeting.
No, they're for you, not against you.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
If we all go into sales calls with that attitude, I think people will receive us differently because we're exuding an energy and a calm, quiet confidence that is contagious.
Isn't it interesting that we're converting people to the truth? It's interesting that the truth would require a conversion, which means that what most people are believing in really isn't even what's going on. So you have to reframe it for them to bring them back to an understanding that they never held in the first place. They were instructed poorly from the get-go as to what the process even is. So they don't have a healthy take on it. And when they understand, we're not trying to convert you into believing in a fantasy. I'm trying to convert you back to your original nature before you were misinstructed.
Yeah.
Which is what it comes down to.
Or disserved, or whatever the term might be.
Sure.
And I know that Joe and others want you to get to the Gil story, which I'm eager to hear. But
you can see why I didn't. Go ahead. Can you ask what?
Yeah, I want to ask you one other question about
Sure.
this. And by the way, with apologies to people who like the word meeting, I understand why you would use that in your environment.
Yes.
In the business world, this isn't my question, by the way, this is just an offhanded comment, but in the business world, I try to encourage our clients to stop referring to them as meetings, because in the business world, usually a meeting is where something bad is about to take place.
Right.
I'm going to get chewed out by my boss. We're going to commiserate over a problem that we're experiencing as an operation. It's kind of the old, Dilbert cartoons, like, wah, wah, we got another meeting. Meetings take a lot of time. Our boss drones on, et cetera, et cetera. So when I talk to people about setting a meeting with a prospect, or instead of saying, like people often do, hey, on their voicemail greeting, hey, sorry, I'm not available. I'm probably in a meeting right now, or I've got meetings all day. When I hear you've got meetings all day, I think you've got problems all day.
Right.
So I like to use the word visit. For example, I'm going to be visiting with another client this afternoon, or I'm hosting one of our customers in our office.
Yeah, those are both great.
Just little words like that sound a lot more inviting.
I agree.
They sound warm. They don't sound like I'm being put upon. So anyway, that's in my world. I don't know if it would apply to yours. Obviously.
I don't know that it does, but I certainly grasp what you're saying. I don't have the associated stuffiness surrounding the word. So when I use it, I'm thinking I'm thinking of it this way, and I'm going to look right into the camera. I'm here to meet who you are. And I'm here for you to meet, which means to experience who it is I am. So it's really a meeting. Two people who will meet one another in this encounter. Another word we use in this teaching is opportunity. It's an opportunity, right? So instead of an audition, which scares the snot out of people, it tends to, it certainly does, then no one gets as riled up emotionally over what is labeled an opportunity. Now, Ken, first of all, thank you. I love you. This is one of the 183 reasons that I love you, is that you are so patient. You're like a smart fisherman. And I grew up on the Gulf Coast in the summer times watching people catch big game fish. And you know one of the telltale signs of a smart fisherman? You know what the drag is on a rod and reel? Do you know what the drag is, Ken? So the drag is a device that tightens or loosens the line.
Yeah. I know.
It's called the drag. So when you have a big fish, or in this case, a couple of big fish on that are running, a wise fisherman does not try to tighten the line. They actually loosen the line.
Yeah.
Because that way they can hang on. Because if you tighten it too much and you try to apply too much control, what happens is the line snaps.
Right.
So in conversation, when you see that there is a run taking place, you are an absolute master. And this is why people love coming on your show. It's not that you're without ideas. You're not. But when you see that people are running, you're like, hey, I'm part of this team and I love what's occurring here. And I'm not measuring time. I'm not measuring numbers of words spoken. And to me, that's what made Johnny Carson a great host. And it's what makes Ken Walls a great host.
Well, thank you for that, Glenn.
I mean it. I mean it. And
I actually don't have any ideas, so keep running.
Well, Rob, you mentioned nervousness, right? We're going back to this whole audition, and I know, brother, because I watched you write. I know that you will be using some of this stuff in your business, and it's not owned by me anyway. It belongs to the cosmos.
I was going to ask if you were billing me now, because that would not go over well.
No, you will not be billed for this. But here's the thing. It would be worth whatever I billed you.
Okay.
It would be worth it. What I'm going to bill you is zero. And trust me, it's worth every bit of that. But no, it's this thing on nervousness. So we mentioned auditions and getting rid of that mental thing. The whole talk tonight, we're talking about mental overrides and how we create that. So much of that is determined by what we undo. So, right, we've got to get in and excavate the things that just are not even so, and yet they've been in there ruling our trajectory. So we've got to find out what's simply not true and make sure we get rid of all of that before we move into affirmative thinking and so forth. So nerves, for example, people say, well, how do you do that? How do you get in front of a live audience? Because I'm a speaker as well, and I'm used to speaking on stages in front of lots of people live, and I do not use PowerPoint ever. I don't use it. I don't plan my talks. I go up and see what the room feels. And I've always spoken that way, just like we didn't plan this tonight, and I don't seem to be struggling. So it's just trusting. It's trusting what the room is saying and bringing it forth. So regarding nervousness, it isn't nerves that have ever derailed a human being. They've never derailed actors. They've never derailed speakers, but rather resistance to those nerves. That's the issue. In other words, nerves kick in, and all they ever had in mind was to fuel your tank. That's what the nerves had in mind, if I can speak now on behalf of the nerves. The nerves are saying, hey, dude, we're here to energize your beingness. We are your friend. Why is it? And they're looking up at you going, why is it that you insist on perceiving us as the enemy? We're not. We're here to help you.
I love that.
You know, I promise you that a bull rider, right before they fling open the gate, That bull rider, if you were to put a heart monitor on him, their heart is jacked up because they are ready to rock and roll. It's excitement. So when you're energized right before you go into an audition room, when you befriend those nerves, which previously before this teaching used to be your enemy, now you go, cool, cool. Literally, you look down and go, this is awesome. And they're going, really? What has happened to you? You used to reject me. You used to think I was here to harm you. And you go, not at all, because I now understand you're part of the divine design. I understand I'm supposed to be feeling this. So it's invigorating. And I'm thankful for that, because my best talks without fail have all occurred when I was severely invigorated. The last thing I want to do is have zero nerves. That is not an enviable condition. I don't want to take the stage just without passion and my heart's just kind of humming along, ba-boom, ba-boom, ba-boom. I don't even want to listen to a speaker that's that way.
Right.
So now all of a sudden, nervousness is your friend, because you realize you had spent your life holding on to a misperception of what's really going on when nerves kick in. And when we bless them, they chill and they look up at us and go, hey, dude, might have taken you a lot of years, but you finally figured this out. That's good.
Yeah, we're here to help.
We're here to help. And then they are your friends for the rest of your life.
Wow.
Because you have a healthier perception of what's actually going on.
That's brilliant.
Hey, can I ask a follow-up
Thanks,
question?
Ken. Sure.
So I'm not brilliant like that, but I do have a question related to this, because I tell you a word that I don't like.
Okay.
And this might offend some people who are with us tonight.
All right. Justin, the answer to your question is yes, I do teach acting online, but we'll get back to that.
And by the way, Ken, you should let everyone know that you guys just called me like 5 minutes before you went live. So I'm glad I'm wearing a shirt. Okay.
My brother sent me a text. Him and his wife are watching, and he said, "Who is this guy?" They know Glenn.
Yeah. Who is this dude? Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Here's my question. I don't like the word enthusiasm.
Okay.
Do
you know its root?
Pardon me?
Do you know its root?
No.
Well, you might change your mind, but let me hear why you don't like it, and then I'll go into its root that may shift your opinion.
I don't like the word enthusiasm because of what it's become in the minds of people who say, hey, you got to be enthusiastic.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's an artificial device, because too often enthusiasm to me is fake. It's not genuine. As I say, it's a put on attitude. But here's the word, Glenn, that I've always liked. And I think it goes along with what you're saying. So the word is energy.
Mm-hmm.
I love energy.
Yeah.
I love an energetic individual. And it doesn't mean that they have to be popping out of their shirt, being boisterous and obnoxious and over the top.
That's annoying.
Exactly. And that too many people think enthusiasm means you have to be loud and you have to be an extrovert. And some people are, not only are not that way naturally, but others of us get uncomfortable around people who are like that. However, I'm never uncomfortable around someone who's got energy. And energy doesn't have to be loud and brazen and obnoxious. Energy can be quiet, but it's always centered. And it's the proper utilization of nerves.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I like the word energy over enthusiasm. So tell me I'm wrong.
Well, I'm not going to tell you you're wrong, because if you remember, I opened tonight by saying it's all energy. I use that word. I said this is what people primarily are responding to, right? So authentic enthusiasm. Well, the truth is, if we are being appropriately enthusiastic, I'm going to coin a phrase, appropriate enthusiasm, then it can't be fake, because the very word means in theos, or in God. Literally, the word means, from the Latin, it means to radiate the light of God. That's the root of that word. You can look it up, but theos, which is the Greek word for God. So when we are enthusiastic, it means we are in Godness.
So, Glenn, I love that, and I'll be utilizing that.
Yeah.
But would you not agree with me that somewhere in the history of the world, we have taken that word and we have made it appear, we have made it into something that is disingenuous, that appears to be fake. For example,
Well, I only agree with you 100%. That's all. Just only 100%.
I feel like I'm not even needed. You guys have
hey, stop it.
No, it's okay. He'll go hang out for a while. I know my buddy.
Yeah. Okay. So I love the root. I did not know that. Thank you for that education.
Sure.
So when it's used properly, when it's used as it's originally intended, of course it's pure. And how can you ever argue with purity?
Right.
But if you'll excuse the term, when we bastardize it, that's when it becomes something that just doesn't feel right to me.
Right. Well, you're familiar with the game telephone, the game where you get 30 people in a circle and you just take one line of dialogue and you turn to your right and say it to them. And their instructions are to take your line and say it to the next person. You do know that it never gets back to the original person with what it started as.
not even close.
Not even close, because here's the thing, is everyone modifies it with what they think they heard instead of modifying it with what they heard. So they always add what they think they heard.
Mhm.
And then by the time, so this is where revisions affect the original intent of something. And so that word has been said and resaid and used and reused to the point where it has taken on a whole different meaning, which is the one you are turned off by, and rightfully so. And I couldn't agree with you more. But I'm going to hold true to its original meaning and remain enthusiastic, but it will be a genuine in Godness. It will be a genuine enthusiasm and not one of the Hollywood enthusiasts that is always turned on and everything's, hey, fantastic and cool and excited. And because that's not every moment is that way.
Yeah.
Hey, there's a dog farting. That's exciting. I mean, it's just a dog cutting a fart. That's all it is. And we don't need to get real alarmed about it. Or that might have been one of the poorest examples I've ever come up with in my life right there.
But you said it so enthusiastic.
I'm going to go ahead and write down, don't ever use that one again.
Well, it's, when I walk into a conference or a seminar and the speaker says, walks out on the stage and says, hey, everyone, you excited tonight?
I'm already done.
Yeah. Because
I'm with you, man.
It's so artificial. Now, anyway, here's another question. Ken, can I ask him another question? Do I have permission?
You're rapidly becoming a soul brother here,
All right. So
I've spent, for the record, I have had the privilege of spending literally hundreds of hours talking with Glenn on air and on the phone and on private Zoom meetings and
even meeting on the side of a Tennessee highway.
He flew when I was driving back from Destin, Florida with my family. My wife, she teamed up with Glenn. I did not know it. I was not aware of this. All of a sudden, Rob, and most people watching this have heard the story, and we'll get to your question, but all of a sudden we're in almost downtown Nashville, and my wife goes, you've got to pull off now, right now. And I go, why? What's wrong? She's like, I have to go. I have to go. I'm like, what is wrong with you? Why wouldn't you have told me 20 miles ago that there was a buildup, something? And she's like, no, it's an emergency. Get off the next exit. And I'm like, we're in downtown. This is not cool. I don't even know this area. And she's like, get off the next exit. She's screaming at me. I'm like, oh my gosh. So across 6 lanes, I get off the next exit. She's like, turn left. There's a gas station down there. And I'm thinking, how do you know there's a gas station? I look over, she's got her map, and I'm like, okay, she's figured out where there's a place to go to the bathroom. So I'm like, okay, we pull up to this light. there's a Shell station on the right and an Exxon on the left. She goes, go to the Exxon. I'm like, but the light's red. Go to the Exxon. I'm like, fine, Exxon it is. So we pull into the Exxon station. She jumps out of the car, runs inside, and I look in the mirror, and he's walking right up next to my door.
And we had never met.
He flew.
We had never met. We plotted an encounter on the side of a Tennessee highway when we had never met each other. We'd been doing this show for a few months at the time, and I just thought, it's about time we meet. And I heard he was going to be taking that road through Nashville, so I just caught a flight to Nashville.
It was,
and I flew back the next morning, but it was great fun.
That's great.
There's Catherine. So go ahead with your question.
What was your question, bud?
Well, my question is, you've spoken about the inner, I mean, these are my words now, interpreting what you've said. You've spoken about the inner confidence that we have to have. And I like to talk to people that I work with about the difference between confidence and cockiness.
Mm-hmm. How do you explain the distinction?
Well, a confidence is, I've used this term already tonight, but a confidence is a calm, quiet assurance that you know who you are and what your purpose is. What your purpose is, you could talk about that big globally, or you could talk about it in this moment, you know what your purpose is. But a cockiness typically is, and I'm no psychoanalyst here, but my observation is that a cockiness is hiding. You're hiding who you are because you're not sure who you are, or you don't like who you are.
I love that distinction. That's really good.
But I'd love to get your take on that, because you have to teach this to those in your profession, because they have to be confident. But if they walk into those meetings cocky, as though they're God's gift to that production,
right,
probably not going to go over very well. And I say
it doesn't. And those auditors, right, the collective auditors of producer, director, casting director, and so forth, executive producer sometimes, is in the room, and they have mastered the art of catching a whiff. And they catch the whiff quickly. So cockiness has an identifiable whiff to it that you, as we say down here in Texas, baby, you can smell it a mile away, right? You can smell it a country mile away. And it's just true. Whereas confidence does not offend. And for the record, in the rare instance that it does, because I'm sure throughout history at times, even confidence has offended people. Here's the deal. It's a self-purification device, because anyone who would be offended by true confidence is not someone confident people want to work with anyway. So it's a self-pruning device. If anyone is truly offended by the confidence of another human being, I say, let them be offended. Let them be offended and let them hit the road. But confidence doesn't usually come across as off-putting, whereas cockiness always comes across. No production company has ever said, we need to hire him because I'm just really endeared by his cockiness. I just find it so adorable and inclusive and soothing. I'm even soothed by it. Right. You don't hear that because it's nonsense. Although sadly, there is what's called the sellout, which exists in Hollywood, which I'm not a fan of, which is when they create an override and go against their better judgment because the only thing they are thinking about is money. The only thing. And that becomes a hiring criteria, so that they look at someone and say, God, he's such an ass. How many followers does he have? Do you see what I'm saying? And that, to me, is when you've sold out. When all of a sudden everything tells you nightmare, red alert, nightmare, and then they override that by looking at numbers of followers, and they go, but think of the box office. Oh my God, the box office. It's incredible. It'll really be impressive. And then 1 year later, they have the biggest, most toxic, poisonous presence on their set that people can't stand to be around. And here's the problem. They all turn to each other and they go, we friggin' knew it. We knew it in the room and we ignored it. We sold out. And so this is when we need to go deep within and say, what is my gut telling me here? And let me not come up with reasons to override it. Our gut is divine. Our gut's job is to know. It knows what's up. And that's why we can have someone walk in a room, they haven't even said anything, and we already go, that's trouble.
So, Glenn, the opposite of that
is
charisma. I don't know.
I'm a fan of charisma.
I'd like to know from your perspective. It seems like most actors, performers are very charismatic. I bet I bet when you want to be, you're the life of the party. People like to listen to you. They like to sit around you. They like to stand around you with their drinks and hors d'oeuvres and just hear you talk. And I don't mean because they're trying to suck up to you. I mean because you have a charismatic personality.
Okay.
What is charisma? How does one achieve it? Are you just born with it? Can it be learned? Is it a skill?
I do think we're born with it, but here's the deal. I don't think let me make one clarification, one modification. I don't think we're uniquely born with it. I do think we're born with it, but I think everyone's born with it. Yeah. And I think that basically a lot of people wind up in their casket with undiscovered charisma in them that was simply never explored. And so much of our beingness, sadly, goes unexplored. And I think that the greatest teacher of all time with regard to that concept, singularly. So I'm not identifying this person as the greatest teacher of all time, but in this unique way, I think Michelangelo explained to everybody a lot about life when he was asked, how did you carve the statue of David? And I use this in all of my talks. And he, at age 26, because that's how old he was when he carved the statue of David. Rob, I have undershorts that are 26. I mean, it's amazing how young he was when he carved this beautiful statue. And what he said when asked, how did you carve such a beautiful statue? He said, I didn't carve David. I simply carved away everything that was not David. And it's brilliant. So people who have charisma, all they did was carve away everything that was blocking their charisma. Charisma stems from confidence. You talked about the distinction between confidence and cockiness. And confidence breeds charisma. So when we become confident, a byproduct of confidence is charisma, to be charismatic. I also am a huge fan of that quiet that you're talking about, of being still and knowing absolutely who you are. And I think in your own unique way, you can be even charismatic in your quietness, that it's mind-blowing how someone can be so still and know exactly who it is they are, and they're in kind of an ongoing meditative state. But I think that true charisma, which is proportionate to one's aliveness, and I talk a lot in the program about aliveness, being a focal point, or the life of the party, is, as you put it, highly overrated. It's certainly never been my goal, but one of the natures of show business is that if you've done well at it, people want to explore what makes you tick. They want to know what your story is. How did you get there? And how have you stayed there? What methodologies have you utilized? And this is one of the reasons we started this show, is so that we could be helpful to people. We're certainly not in it for profit, because we don't do this show for profit. We do it for profit of the soul, but there's no dollars being exchanged. But we need
to work on that.
No, we don't. We have the implied profitability of knowing that when we're in the business of helping people, that also uplifts us.
Yes, it does.
And this goes back to energy. Our energy is enhanced, bar none, and I know Ken feels this way, by doing this show.
Yeah.
we are enhanced. We believe that the listeners are enhanced. That's certainly how they communicate to us. But we don't walk away unaltered. We walk away greatly improved by it, and things go better in our lives. May I speak, Ken, and just say,
Yes.
in part due to this show, because at a vibrational level, and I'm not going woo woo foo foo, but I really mean it. When we are out in the business of caring for human hearts and enhancing the ease with which people live by just the sharing of our own soul's experience, we can't walk away from that without experiencing a great benefit, huge benefit from it. And then we in turn plug that benefit into all subsequent experiences that we have throughout the week. And every one of them go better because of it. It's energy.
I agree. Totally.
Exactly what you said.
I do want to say this is Doug Wing, and Doug is the guy that his father is the founder of the Little Giant Ladder Company. And Doug and his brother are co-chairman of the board. I believe that's how that works. Great guy in the Salt Lake City area as well, Rob. So just
Doug, we got to get to know each other. I'm in the Salt Lake area as well.
Yeah,
I love that area with the Wasatch Mountains. That whole area is just very dear to me, and I have a lot of friends in that area.
I love this. His dad's philosophy was to build the man, and the business followed, and that's so true.
Doug, that is our philosophy.
Yes, it is.
And this goes back to the whole, you can either give someone a fish or teach them to fish. Yep. It's really the exact same teaching. Colleen says, can't wait to meet you someday. She's 3 hours away.
Is one of my dearest friends in the world. She is a wonderful, wonderful human being.
What part of Texas, or is she in Oklahoma or something?
No, she's in Texas, down in, I think it's
Houston area,
San Antonio, I think.
Oh, in San Antonio.
I think Colleen, drop it in there. I think it's San Antonio. I'm not sure, but yeah, she's awesome. I love that woman. She changed my life, actually. You want to hear how?
Yes, please. That'll give me a little delay on my Gil story, which I could use.
Austin. She's in Austin. Sorry.
Okay.
So I was having, she's not a podiatrist, but she's a professional. She makes orthotics. I forget whatever that title is. She's told me 1,000 times. I can never remember, but we were at this conference, this Grant Cardone conference, and she walks up to me and hugs me. We just met. She knew I was having trouble with my feet, tremendous amount of pain. And she said, I need you to come to my room. And I said, I am a married man. Thank you. And she started laughing.
What time would you like me to be there?
I'm pretty sure she smacked me, but she said, I have 2 boxes up there. I need to get molds of your feet. It's this special foam, and I'm going to send you some orthotics, and it'll change your life. And I said, okay, fine. So we did that. And she sent me these things. I don't go anywhere without them in my shoes. They're the most life-changing. Like, I went from being angry all the time, which I didn't realize, really sore feet will do that to your mood. Anyway, I just had to throw that out there. Here,
you're one of the few people who can talk about being angry all the time while laughing.
Well, I'm not
before or after, but you go, I was angry. I was angry all the time. It's wild. It's a weird delivery to communicate anger, Ken.
I was, though. Why are you're saying my delivery's weird?
No, it was just wonderfully peculiar. I loved it.
Oh.
I'm going to try to include it in my arsenal.
At
some point that'll be usable.
I love you too, Colleen. So yes, Colleen, you need to drive up to Dallas and meet Glenn one of these days, or whatever. I don't know.
I'm here and not a lot of plans to travel until we get on the backside of COVID. I'm kind of laying low in Dallas, Texas. I've made 2 trips, and one of them was to see you, brother.
I know, man. You were supposed to start filming soon.
We were supposed to go back on our show, The Resident, on the 10th, and it has been COVID postponed. So we don't know when we'll be back. But I trust them. They know what they're doing, and it's a very tenuous situation because they're relying on. There's so many moving parts in order to have a TV series, and every one of them needs to operate perfectly.
Yeah.
Because if they don't, the whole production shuts down. That's a big ask in our world, and I don't want to sidebar this down COVID lane. It's not like we haven't talked enough about that on the show. Do you want me to tell the Gil story?
Rob, do you have any other questions that are pending? Can we move into Gil?
We'll save them for another time. I'd hate to keep the Gil story away from everyone who wants to hear it.
Well, everybody,
I want to hear it.
A lot of people have heard it. It is the most wonderful story, and it will show you. I'm just going to do a little prelude to this, if you don't mind.
Wow, the Gil prelude. I don't believe I've heard this.
The Gil prelude. So, in my opinion, this is one of those stories that will absolutely blow you away, and it will give you a true, absolutely amazing look into the soul of a madman. I'm kidding. Of an amazing spiritual being, and that's Glenn. And I'm telling you, it's mind-blowing. So Glenn, please tell. And I had no idea it was in Salt Lake City. All the times I've heard it, I had no idea. So I'm learning something new every time.
I'll tell you exactly where it happened. It happened at the Hotel Monaco in downtown Salt Lake City. So I'll pick up the story here. We go to the fall of the year 2000. And it was October of that year. I was at that time doing the television series CSI, playing a running role as the sheriff, a regular role on that show. And I had just finished an episode, and they had carved out an opportunity for me to go do another project in Salt Lake. So I'd never filmed a show in Salt Lake City before. I used to go up to Sundance all the time, but had not actually filmed in Salt Lake. So I was excited about the trip. And they sent a limousine for me. That's how my day started, early in the morning to fly out of Burbank Airport. The limo picks me up, takes me to Burbank, where I get aboard a metallic cylinder, cylindrical shaped thing that travels at 500 miles per hour and drops me off, where I'm again whisked away to the hotel. And I go up to room 923. It's a very popular room to stay in, by the way, now after the Gil story. But I go to that room and I open the door, and I have a roommate. And I've never opened the door and had a roommate already there when I opened the door. And that roommate was a goldfish. I've never had a goldfish. Traveled all over the world, never had a goldfish in my room. And I thought, well, that's kind of cool. What a nice touch. And you're the second person I've met, actually third in Salt Lake, the driver, the front desk person, and now you. So you're the third being that I've met. Now, I begin talking out loud. This is not said. There's zero embellishment to this story. This is admittedly who I am. I'm now talking out loud to the fish. And I'm saying, I want to just get to know you. I want to observe your life. I mean, hand to God, so that you know I'm being a straight shooter here. This is what happened. I am talking to a fish in Salt Lake City, which is probably why Ken accused me of being a madman. I set my bags down on the bed and just decided to go spend some time. I have nowhere to be, no plans until set tomorrow for a wardrobe fitting, and it's a late call anyway. So I'm going to spend some time with my new buddy. And I asked him if I could call him Gil. I actually asked, because that was the name Bill Murray named his goldfish that he wore around his neck in the film What About Bob? And I always liked that movie, and I liked that name. And after all, dude, we're going to be spending the next 9 nights together. So I'd like to get kind of on a first name basis with you right off the bat. And then a light bulb went off. And I applied that light bulb immediately. I just thought, it's nice to know you. And I looked at his world, and here was the entirety of Gil's world. He's in about a 6-inch bowl with gravel, water, a little bit of fish food, and a castle right in the center of the base of the bowl, which Gil is swimming around and around and around and around and around and around. And frankly, I was impressed with how bored he didn't seem to be. Because if it were me, I'm thinking, I've already lost all sense of value if this is the full extent of my experience, that I get to circle a castle endlessly. Ready? Go. What a weird fate. And then I thought, aha, I'm the guy that came to dramatically alter your perspective, my friend. And I picked up the bowl and I carried Gil into the bathroom, where I proceeded to fill the bathtub, dipping my finger in the bowl and the tub regularly to match the temperature because I didn't want to shock him. And I filled the tub completely. And then instead of pouring it in, because I didn't want to lose the water quality of his home, I gently reached in, grabbed Gil, and placed him dead center into the tub. What do you think he did, Rob? Can you show me Rob's face here in a minute? There he is. What do you think he did?
I just hope he didn't die.
That's more than
maybe the worst possible outcome I've ever heard. In fact, when I've asked, what do you think he did? I've never had someone say, I hope he didn't die. Jesus. Let me show you what he did. He did this. His eyes started going back and forth, but he was motionless for approximately 30 seconds. And then he begins swimming his familiar circle. Now, this is where the story gets really cool. No, Carrie, we don't have a floater. Gil starts swimming his circle. Now, mind you, it is a 6-inch circle, despite the absence of the glass. So what do we learn already? We learn that goldfish, like humans, are creatures of habit. There's no glass, and yet his circle remains small. And the first thought I had right here is, oh my God, I wish there were witnesses. I wish there were so many people. I wish the world were watching. And simultaneously in that moment, I vowed to God to make what goes on to happen a lesson that I would share with the world. In that moment, I had a knowing we are into something huge here. So I thought, this is where you intervene at level 2. Level 1 was intervening by bringing him into the bathtub in the first place. Level 2 is I'm now going to reach into the bowl, into the tub, and gently maneuver his circle to be a little bit wider. Nothing that's startling, but just a little wider. And he's still swimming in that circle. And the circle gets bigger and bigger until he makes contact with the edge, which is a hard white wall, which is not something he'd ever encountered before. And I didn't want to traumatize the fish. So I said, that's it, out of the pool. That's enough for night 1. We don't need to push this any further. And I grabbed him and put him back in the bowl. Well, let me move the story forward. Night 2, we rinse and repeat. We do the exact same thing. He waits, doesn't wait quite as long, then starts in the circle. Again, it's small, and I maneuver him out gently, and he hits the wall. And again, we pull the plug. And it was on night number 3 that when I put him in the tub, he started swimming, and he started swimming a bigger circle on his own. And I swear to you, wow, I had what I call a God chill that moved throughout me, thinking, oh my God, this is brilliant. This is beautiful. He's doing it without my help. And it was when he got up to the wall that he discovered the concept of the straightaway. And now, for the first time in his fish existence, he is swimming the outer edge, which includes, like a NASCAR track, a long straightaway followed by a curve. So it's still a circular pattern, but it's an oval where he can build up some friggin' speed. Gil is discovering his own capability, which the bull would not allow him to discover. And I'm ecstatic. So what do? I'm so excited. I'm genuinely aroused. I rip off my clothes and hop into the tub with him. I truly did. And now I realize that I have become Gil's human castle. I am the new castle in his widely expanded life. And he is swimming around me, and I am loving it, going, this is the makings of someone who needs to promptly be institutionalized. But I'm not crazy. I'm not. I'm just a very, very open-minded and open-hearted man. And I'm loving this time in my hotel room with my goldfish. And I've got a company paying me for it. They're paying me to be there, and I'm having a friggin' blast with the goldfish every night after. Yes, it is a lot of left turns. That's correct. And so here's how this story ends. Gil and I went swimming nightly after that point. He knew the routine. I'd put him in the tub. I get myself in the tub, and he'd circle around me. And we were never in the tub for long periods of time. I'd say probably tops each outing was maybe 5 minutes, because I didn't want to do any damage. I don't know how widely varied that water is relative to the water he's in. And I didn't want to mess with him. And he seemed to be just fine. So we're doing 5, tops 7 minutes or so a night. And now it comes time for me to check out. I've been there 9 nights, and I've taken Gil swimming all 9 nights. And we are bonding big time. I feel very close to this fish. And I looked over at him on the morning I'm due to check out. Checkout time's 11 a.m. And at about 10 o'clock, I walked up to him, and I became legitimately emotional, Rob, and not a little bit. He's my bud. And what this teaches us is we can bond with anyone or anything. All it takes is a decision to be led by our heart. I am super close to this fish. And I look at him and I go, what do you say, dude? One more swim? We'd never swum in the daytime. We'd never done it. It's always nighttime. And I picked him up, and we went in there, and, he's like this as I'm walking in the water. He's rocking, and I could kind of speak fluent Gil, because what Gil was essentially saying is, dude, we don't usually do this in the daytime. This is kind of weird, but okay, I guess we're headed back to the bathroom. And we did. And we got there at 10 o'clock that morning, and we did our last swim. When he began circling me, I started crying. And here's why. Because I understood no guest will ever do this with you again. This will never occur in your life again. And yes, although it's been great, now I'm consumed with sadness, because I don't think it, I know it. When I leave this room, you will be relegated to your small bowl again, which is not fun. They say in life that once we've seen the light, we can't go back. And now I felt a sense of responsibility, which is exactly why 30 minutes later, I was down in the lobby with my suitcase in one hand and Gil in the other. And I said to the person at the front desk, I know a lot of people steal your towels, but I'm going to take your goldfish. I want you to bill me for it, bill me for the bowl, bill me for the gravel, the castle, the whole bit. And I had gotten to know the front desk person really well by this time. And she looked up and she said, you want to take him with you? I said, we've been swimming in my bathtub every night since I've been here. And she looked and she goes, oh, that is so sweet. I don't doubt for a minute that you have been doing that. I said, no, we really have. And I'm really close to him. And she said, that is the most beautiful thing that has ever happened in this hotel. I love this, that you're taking him with you. And because of it, I will not charge you for the bowl, the fish, nothing. You take it, and you take it with my blessing. You just taught me something about connection. Mm-hmm. And we went and bought an aquarium that was about a foot bigger than the very bathtub in which he had trained. And that was his new home. So it turns out that that move to that new arena was precedent setting. And ever since that night with Gil, I have seen every human being I meet as a potential Gil. And I think that that's the answer to life, if I may be so bold to declare that, is to look to everyone and see what role we can play in enhancing one another's swim. How wide is your circle? How big is your swim? And is there room for it to be even more grandiose? And what limitations are you experiencing, all of which were self-imposed because you didn't know that more was available to you? So it winds up being one of the most beautiful spiritual lessons in the world. And we wound up adding some friends to his life in the new aquarium. And basically that week transformed him, but not as much as it transformed me. And so many audiences have known about Gil ever since then. Gil is arguably the most famous goldfish that ever lived. And all of that story is true. There is no part of me that's ashamed of it. There is no part of me that is embarrassed to say that I was weeping openly. And it wasn't a mild case of tears. It was horrifying, the thought that I would leave. And this is why I really hold that our soul knows what is correct to do. We know what to do. And what was made known to me is that you don't leave him. That's why you're feeling this way, Glenn. You do not leave him behind. That would be wrong. You accepted responsibility for growing his life. Now stewardship is what's called for. And correct stewardship was to take him with me on that day so that he didn't go back to being mistreated and being stuck in a little bowl going, where's my bathtub? And I could really see him doing that. I mean, it's great that you're feeding me, to the maids that are coming in and putting in fish food, but he's going, where's Glenn? Where's Glenn? And where's my tub? I just didn't want that. I didn't want it.
Wow.
And we have some people that seem to be sobbing. I tell you, when I tell that on stage, there are rows of people that are losing it. And they realize, and I want them to realize, they're going, oh my God, I'm Gil. That's the awareness people come up with, is in so many ways, I have set up a life for myself like Gil was in the fishbowl. And there's so much more available. What is this saying? This is why I'm here. That's nice. You're welcome, JR. You're welcome. Anyway, that's the story they wanted me to tell you, Rob.
What did you think of that story, Rob?
Well, I have to clear my throat.
Are you choked up?
Yeah, I'm like everyone else who's commenting. It's there are a lot of lessons to be learned from that story. I think of divine lessons to be learned from it.
What are your takeaways? What are the lessons that you pick up?
Mine are no better than anyone else's who's commenting right now, I'm sure. But you saw Gil's potential, and he needed someone to see his potential. He needed someone to give him a bigger arena to spread his gills, so to speak. And then once someone gave him that opportunity and let him know that it was okay, because those eyes that were looking either way when you asked me what he did when you first placed him up, he wasn't sure. Am I supposed to be here? Am I really qualified to do this? And but you said, yeah, you're qualified to do it, and I'll be here for you. So it's almost like a savior complex thing, that you were his savior. You really were. So that's why I say there's also a spiritual aspect to what you just taught. So,
do you feel that we are called to serve in that capacity in the lives of others? And I think that maybe the word savior is a bit presumptuous or a bit strong, but certainly facilitator. I would say a facilitator. I don't know if I was a savior, but I facilitated an opportunity for him to express differently. And it turned out that that was very attractive to him because he caught on very quickly. And most people are scared when they hear that things can be better, but when they see it from themselves, once change is ignited, I think they change their minds real quickly. I think they're afraid of it when it's something they merely hear about or they see it in the lives of others. And the minute they see it coming through them, they go, maybe this is worth rethinking. This is interesting because they're experiencing the benefits of their own pure potentiality.
Well, you showed Gil that he was not intended to be confined to an 8-inch bowl.
Right.
And, the other word that comes to me, and it's a word that I thought of when you were speaking earlier before you even shared with us this story. It's what you do in your classes, in your acting classes. When you give people skills, their confidence improves. When their confidence improves, their attitude about themselves and life gets better.
Mm-hmm.
And as their attitude improves, success is within reach. It's more attainable. So for me, and I think your story, at least for me, your story reinforces this. It began with skills. You said, Gil, I think you're capable of doing more than what you're currently doing. I'm going to give you an opportunity to develop the skill of swimming a bigger lap in a bigger pond, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
And when he finally developed that skill, his confidence went up. His attitude was better. And he probably is happier, right? So when people like Ken and you and even I have an opportunity within our careers to be the facilitator of skill development.
Well said.
It's such a responsibility. It is our stewardship. And nothing's more gratifying, I'm sure, for you, Glenn, and it is for me. And Ken, when you work with your clients, when you can walk away having had a moment or an experience with them where you can say, I left them better than I found them.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm grateful to have been a part of that experience, to have played a small role in facilitating their growth and ultimately their success.
Don't you think this is a powerful yes? And don't you think that in doing so, we're merely expanding the teaching that we were exposed to, those of us who were in the Boy Scouts, when they said to leave your campsite better off than it was when you got there?
Absolutely.
And it turns out, I think they actually thought they were merely teaching us about campsites. But for those of us that took that teaching and ran with it, it turned out that everywhere we go in the world is our campsite. Right now, this moment with us and the people that are watching, this is my campsite. It's your campsite. It's Ken's campsite. Right. And if we approach it with the commitment that, by God, when I leave this campsite, the campsite will be better off than it would have been had I not visited. And it's not an ego trip. That's not cockiness. That is a calling that I believe the world would be infinitely better off if we all would answer to such a calling. So this is not unique to an individual. I would celebrate my redheaded butt off at age 61 if people would approach all gatherings with this mindset. This would be nirvana. It would be heaven on earth if everyone's commitment when they walked into a room of any kind, no matter what the circumstances, I'm here to benefit this environment. If all people did that, oh my God.
I'll be right back. I want to show you something.
I can't improve on what you just said. Let me just add to it. And that is, you invoke the Boy Scouts. I have been closely aligned with the Boy Scouts over the years. I have 3 sons who are Eagle Scouts. So,
Mm.
and you're from Dallas, where the Boy Scouts is based. Let me share with you. Maybe you've heard this as well. The Boy Scouts have always said, and this applies to women as well, it is better to build a boy than to repair a man.
Wow.
And so
I was a scout and I've never heard that. And that's beautiful.
and that's something those of us who participated in Scouts
Wow.
as adults were taught that, as adult leaders. I'm not currently involved in scouting, but I have been over the years. And that has always stuck with me. It's better to build a boy than to repair a man.
You've got me writing, Rob.
Yeah, well, it's the Scouts, not me. But and it goes back to what you did for Gil, right? I happen to have koi fish at my home here in Salt Lake City. So I've got some koi fish that overwhelm a goldfish. And I know that a goldfish will never become a koi fish. It's not biologically possible. However, you looked at Gil as a boy and you said to yourself, and this is why you became emotional about it, I'm going to build this small young boy goldfish into a beautiful
Man in 9 days.
Yeah, that has exactly. So it's a moving story. We could get lost in the simplicity of it. We could I think dismiss it because of its simplicity. But I think if we all stop and think about what you shared with us, as obviously thousands of people have done as you told that story, there's much to be learned. And there's much to be learned by both the Gills of the world and the Glens of the world that facilitated Gil's success.
I'm getting emotional about it, thinking right now I'm just all of a sudden accessing that memory, which was incredible. But I got to tell you, every night while enjoying him circling around me, I did have the thought of, where are the witnesses? I mean, I already said that earlier in the telling of the story, but it was a nightly feeling of where are the witnesses, and a simultaneous realization that you're going to have plenty of witnesses, and your job will be to bring them into this room with you, to share every detail of this story in such a way where basically you do, if you tell it well, minus embellishment, because that has that aroma of inauthenticity, which will not be allowed in this story. It must remain pure. And that was kind of that inner knowingness. And as long as you keep it pure, here's the promise I'm going to make you. And this is really a voice from above. Here is the promise that is going to be fulfilled. You keep telling the truth about that story, and I'm going to make sure the audiences wind up in that tub with you and Gil. That's how they will feel. That they will feel like they were in the water with you. And if you do that, you will have done your job. Well, one of the things I do for a living is I'm a storyteller. So the point is, this story was placed into the right hands, meaning someone who's going to do it justice, someone who knows how to communicate the feeling and not just the fact. Because the same story, if you had someone else tell it, I'm not saying it would be a lesser story, but I was there, which means I'm telling the story with feeling and not merely with factual presentation. And this is one of the roots behind the development of the word. If you've heard the word edutainment, I don't know if you've heard that word, but the greatest speakers are actually not practicing education, they're practicing edutainment. So they are educating and entertaining simultaneously. And that what happens is when you entertain while educating, you elevate retention. This is not just my theory. This has been scientifically proven that any lesson associated with a smile will be remembered longer. And they've certainly learned this in advertising, haven't they? It seems as though almost every ad on television, its goal is to make you laugh. Right? Because they know what edutainment is. Anyway, it's all just powerful stuff, which brings us full circle, Ken, back to the origin of our program.
Can you see that?
Be responsible for the energy you bring into this space. Or let me read that again. Be responsible for the energy you bring into this space. Yes.
So one of you said something about that, and you know, I had Oprah had that saying put on something, and it was hanging in her office. I mean, Oprah and I don't hang out, so I don't know if it's still there or not. But I had that made years ago, and hanging in my office. And then recently, a friend of mine, his wife has a company down in Florida where she makes signs like that are kind of beachy feeling, and they made that as a gift for me and sent it to me, and yeah, I love that, because I think that too many people are, you know, Anthony DeMello wrote a book called Awareness. He was a Jesuit priest, and it's a book from, I think, the 1950s. But throughout the book, he's a wonderful storyteller, and throughout the book, he's constantly in big bold letters saying, "Wake up, wake up." People are, and I talk about this a lot. You know, people are living life on autopilot. From if I said to either one of you, "Hey, we've been on here an hour and 31 minutes and 5 seconds. How many times?"
Like 20 minutes.
I know. How many times have you blinked your eyes in that hour and 31 minutes? Can you tell me an exact number? And neither one, no, I don't know. How many beats did your heart make, or how many breaths did you take? And we don't know those things because it happens on autopilot, and 96% of our life is on autopilot. And people are not awake. They're not aware of that. They're not aware of, you can consciously decide what energy you're going to bring into any conversation, any environment, anything at all. But they're operating from an unconscious level 96% of the time. And so they can never figure out, well, I don't know, why am I not successful? I try so hard. You know, or why am I always sad, or why am I, whatever, all of the whys, when the simple fact is you're asleep at the wheel, man. Like, wake up, take responsibility. The book that Jack Canfield wrote, called The Success Principles, the very first principle of 67 principles, I think, in that book, the very first one is take 100% responsibility for every single outcome in your life, period. Stop blaming Rob. It's not his fault. Stop blaming your wife. Stop blaming your husband. Stop blaming the government. Stop blaming everyone, and take responsibility for everything. Glenn, you have
Ken, I want to show you a piece of paper. You held up a whiteboard. I'm going to show you a piece of paper to answer one of your questions, and that's the math on it. I just did if you can see, I did a quick calculation. Let me get over here to the other side. I'm not joking now. And so there it is. If you look at the math there, it says, I'll just read it back to you because I'm not holding it up very well. Our heart beats 72 beats per minute. That's the human average. So we've been on an hour and 31 minutes, which is 91 minutes.
Yeah.
So the math is, I just rounded it off to 90. 90 times 72 is 180. 9 times 2 is 180. And then the 7 winds up being 6,300. So you add that, it's 6,480. And that one extra minute is 72. So 6,480 plus 72 gives us 6,452 BPMs, beats per minute. That's the answer to that. So you have had 6,000, the average person in our audience, 6,452 beats per minute since the show started, all of which went unsupervised.
And but that's life. That's for most people. And I have, because I've meditated every single day of my life for the last 17 years. I've learned through meditation that I can on demand, I can slow or increase my heart rate. I can feel it. I can literally feel my heart rate change on demand because I know how to focus my energy on that. And I think that too many people are, and it sounds probably woo woo foo foo, and I don't care, but like, I think that too many people in this world are asleep at the wheel of their own life. You know, I forget the quote. Maybe one of you will know, but there's a quote that most people die at the age of 25 and go on to live to be 90 or something like that. Or most people are how does that go? Most people, it's something.
I'm pretty sure that was Weird Al Yankovic that said that.
No,
I'm totally kidding. I have no idea.
Their life at 25, 30 years old, and they just live the rest of their life on autopilot, never really digging deep and waking up, really waking up.
Do you know anything about the origin of that, Rob, or no?
I don't. No.
Yeah.
But yeah, it kind of reminds me of a similar quote, which is the cemetery is full of good ideas unrealized.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, there are a lot of people, probably us included, who've all had some good ideas, and but we just kind of took them to the grave with us because we may not have had the courage, the skills, the discipline to actually try to execute on them. So that's why I think we admire successful people so much, and why we like to be around them and study them and read about them. It's because, man, I mean, I look at you both of you, Ken, you've got this marvelous show that you do, Breakthrough Walls. You've got 200.
He's got beachfront property. Look at him.
Yeah, beachfront where it never gets dark at night.
I know, crazy.
Glenn's got a 45, 50-year career in one of the toughest industries on the planet, and so I think why do we admire folks like you? It's because the old adage, you did the things that unsuccessful people just refuse to do.
Well, so let me throw this at you, gentlemen. Why? Let's peel it back to what is upstream of this. And as this is the way growing up as a mechanic, because I worked on cars a lot growing up, and I still work on them as kind of an adult jigsaw puzzle. I've been rebuilding my dad's old car. He passed away in 2005, and I've been rebuilding it over the last couple of weeks and really, really rocking it out and getting it to run beautifully and even beautifying it. So not only making it run more efficiently, but even exterior things that I just want it. I want it to be beautiful and to run well. And it's kind of a metaphor. What I'm doing with his car is kind of a metaphor for how I believe we can live lives. I believe that we can increase our efficiency with just an increase in our tenderness and our care. Are we caring for the machinery? Are we caring for our lives? Are we good stewards, and so forth? And now I got so wordy, I have no idea what I was going to say. But whatever, that happens, and it'll come back to me. Something off of what you were saying, Rob, and I'm not sure. It'll come back.
Well, I was just again commenting on how successful people have that common denominator of the willingness to do what other people just are too lazy or too undisciplined, or perhaps just don't believe that they have it in them to do.
Right. And you brought it back. I knew it would land immediately, which is why the stop. That's my question to you and to the audience. And Ken, if we could illuminate some of the things that have been chimed in, because I was very much Vincent verbose tonight, and I had a serious case of diarrhea of the mouth. I felt like it was asked for, but still I understand that we have not been able to acknowledge, and I do want to acknowledge some of these chime-ins that have been so beautiful. Hello, my sweet.
Hi.
Nice to see you, Abigail. But the point is, the question I want to ask is, why the stop? You said people are fascinated, and I agree with that they are smitten by successful people. But why the insistence upon remaining merely an audience member, observing the readily apparent expandedness, we'll call that, the expansion of a human being, and still remain in the crowd instead of realizing this is your time? So you can watch these people and be inspired by it, but to me there's something that says get up and go, because this story is your story. They're showing you what your story can look like when you pay attention to your script. It's your script. It's your movie. It's your life. And you are the human being who has been cast to star in the movie called your life. Why are you clinging to your role as an extra in your own script? It's your script. So I think it's great that you're fascinated by that magnificent Olympic skier or the great NBA player or whoever it is, the incredible speaker, whoever it is you're smitten by, but allow your fascination and your ecstasy over seeing this, allow it to generate and to activate something within you that says, hey, and this even starts getting spiritual, Rob. It even starts getting spiritual when the line comes out. The quote is, these and greater things ye shall do. So people were so busy noticing all the miracles that they couldn't shush about it. Oh my, it's amazing. It's amazing. Oh my, it's unbelievable. And it was like, hey, time out. These and greater things. So all of the things that you're so excited about watching healers do, that exists within you and more. And what I'm wondering is, why did we forget that? Why have human beings remained in fascination mode? Here's a great, and I'm assembling this phrase now. Why insist on remaining in fascination and not insisting on activation? So from fascination to activation, and maybe I've just come up with the next title of my book, but fascination to activation. And I think most people, there is a stop. There is a disconnect. They get fascinated. They get excited. They get enthralled. They're impassioned. And then it stops. And they can't wait to go back to the next experience, which includes somebody else, not them, somebody else, to now have a new fascination with them. Instead of looking in the mirror and actually coming to terms with, there is nothing less fascinating about you. And that's the conversation I invite people to have. There is nothing less fascinating about the person in the mirror than all of these people I seem to have allowed myself to become smitten with. And it's time that I have that conversation so that I can get up off my rusty duff and do something about the person I was designed to be, instead of assuming dreams are something that come true for others. Other people. They have their dreams. And I stay mired in mediocrity because that's why I outswam 500 million sperm, is to have a really, really average life. You're getting a glimpse of, anyway.
Hey, she wanted to say hello to you. I told her.
Yeah, I was in flow there. Hi to you, darling. Show me your mouth minus the braces. Can you get up really close to camera and we can see that? Oh, look at that.
Man.
Whew.
What a beautiful girl.
She misses her braces, though.
She got them off yesterday.
I really liked them because I had wanted.
Speak up. You gotta speak up.
I really wanted them. I had wanted them since I was 7, and then I finally got them, and I liked them, and then I had to get them off.
So you are in braces grief right now.
Yep.
Yeah, you're having a little grieving over the removal of braces.
Can you show everybody your British accent?
The British one. Is that what you're talking about?
Yes.
Yeah.
I love it.
You do?
You know that I do. We've talked this way so many times.
Oh, yes, I know. I'm just making sure.
Nothing's changed, my love. We're-
Clarifying.
We are still. I'm sorry.
What?
He said,
What? What
are
did you say? Do we still have our date?
know what you're sorry for?
Abigail, do we still have our date
Yes, with the tea and
to
crumpets.
eat tea and crumpets? That's right.
I'll bring the crumpets, you bring the tea.
That's exactly right.
Because nobody likes cold tea.
I've got to be honest with you, though. They won't let me bring the tea on the aeroplane. They will let me smuggle crumpets.
And I'll bring the tea.
I think it works better that way because otherwise TSA is going to confiscate the tea.
Well, that's not good, is it?
No, it's not good at all.
No, then we won't have our tea with the crumpets. And that's not good
Correct.
at all.
No, it's a bad idea.
Yeah. Why are you cracking up over here? What's the matter?
Oh my
I
gosh.
don't know what's happening over here. We're just trying to have a conversation, mate.
Well, the thing is, people are fascinated because they're not used to seeing young people who are so illuminated, and you certainly are, and your dialect is seamless, my love.
You know, sometimes I go outside and I just talk to myself in a British accent, pretending I'm in England and I'm a British little girl playing outside.
This is exactly how it started for all of us, dear. Any of us that go into show business, that's how it started.
I know that's really weird, but like, am I like the only one who likes to role play by myself?
No. No.
I go outside and I talk to myself and I pretend I'm making a TikTok and I don't even have my phone on me.
That's not bizarre behavior. That's the beginnings of genius, my dear.
Oh, really?
Really?
No.
Do you know that I used to hold a show, no joke, every Friday night in my bedroom, and my brother would draw the curtain and pull the blinds up, and I performed a 30-minute show every Friday to no one.
That's so sad.
Looking out the window. No, wait, journey with me on this. It's not sad because I was performing for an audience that had not arrived yet. But by doing so, I was building a dream. If you've ever heard the phrase, Abigail, build it and they will come.
No.
That's what I was doing. In my mind, I was performing, and I thought that what I was doing was worthy of being seen. And a few short years later, I mean, literally, it's just a couple of years later, I started being paid for doing what I was doing in my bedroom in front of a window to no one. It's a powerful lesson.
She's not tracking. So he means he practiced by himself like that in front of the window to no audience. And eventually, within just a couple of years, he was in a movie and they were paying him.
And the audience showed up.
I do that, so am I going to be famous and be in a movie?
Well, it's kind of up to you if you decide that that's what you want to do.
Well, heck yes.
Well, I'm sorry you seem to be mired in indecision.
Say, no, I've decided I want to do it.
Oh, you are so adorable.
My decision, thank you.
I love your spirit.
Really?
Sweetheart, the good news is this. Simply put, the world needs love, and you are that. The world needs smiles, and you have them to give. So whatever line of work you choose, at the end of the day, as long as you come from love and you greet people with the warm smiles that you've always greeted me with in this audience when you come on camera, then that's what matters most. And how you spend your time, that's up to you. So
Well,
you can do whatever you want to do.
I think I spend my time pretty wisely playing Roblox. That's certainly helpful, you know?
What is Roadblocks?
Roblox.
It's basically like a game, and it's a game with a bunch of other games in it. If that makes any sense.
No.
Okay. Is it an internet thing or is it a physical board game?
Well, yeah, you like build stuff and you can create games and stuff, and you can like make friends on there and stuff, and you can like play games, but like you don't show your face or anything. Like you have a character and then you can customize it, like customize the avatar, and then you can like look up a game that you want to play, like Bloxburg or Adopt Me or something, and then
Right.
you play it, and then there are different things that you do on every game, and every game is made by a different player that got onto Roblox. So they were just an original player when they started Roblox, but then they made a game, and that's what made them like a creator.
There you go.
What I love is that years from now, because this stuff is all recorded online when we do these lives, years from now, you will go back and look at 10-year-old Abigail, and you will see how precocious you were. Do you know the word precocious?
No.
So really ahead of your time. You're beyond your years. You're very, very wise. You're a very mature and developed young girl. And you're going to look back at this when you're 13 and 15, and you will see that the evidence of the acorn growing was there. Because right now you're in an acorn state. I'm saying that you're very much like an acorn. If you've ever looked at an acorn and what that acorn, you know what I'm talking about, right? An acorn?
Yeah.
Okay. So here's the beautiful thing. That acorn contains within it the mindset of being an oak tree. It knows what it's headed to become. And so do you. And it's beautiful to see you in this acorn state, knowing that the inevitability is that you will be growing into a mighty oak tree. And I really believe that. I believe that you are going to be the most incredibly large oak tree that provides shade and beauty for others. And it's incredible. It's incredible to see it at your young age.
Did I ever tell you about the time her lemonade stand this past?
You did, but tell Rob.
So she said she wanted to make some money and do a lemonade stand, and we live out behind our privacy fence. There's a road that's a busy little intersection, and so she wanted to do a lemonade stand. I said, oh, she was going to put it in the driveway. Well, we live at the end of a cul-de-sac, and I'm like, that you'll sell one cup of lemonade. And so I said, why don't we put it out behind the privacy fence? And so she goes out there, and she was doing gymnastics, back bends, front hands, all these things to get people's attention as they're pulling up to this intersection. And they're pulling off the road, holding up cars. People are giving her $20 and saying, keep the change, because of just her. And she's walks up to a police car and gives them a free cup, says thank you for your service, gives them a free cup of lemonade.
I was also with my friend.
She was with her friend out there too, and made, how much did you make? 190.
Well, we split the money. If I wouldn't have split the money with her, it would have been like $200.
$200 in a couple of hours.
That's wonderful.
And I made her pay me for my investment in the lemonade and all that up front. I said, give me that's your cost of doing business. So
well, you have to pay back your investors.
Yeah. So, but she's very, she's never met a stranger ever. By the way, that's Rob. Rob, this is Abigail.
Oh, hi.
Hi, Abigail. It's been a pleasure to listen to you and watch you.
It's been a pleasure to watch you listen.
Get out of here. You gotta go to bed. Good night.
Night, everyone. Have a splendid night. Dream of tea and crumpets.
You have tea and crumpets, my love. I will see you soon. Take care.
Okay.
Oh, by the way, do you know the English pronunciation? Because your father, he chose to say the word privacy. Do you know how they say it?
Privacy. Do you know how they say it?
Do you know how that one's said?
I forget. But I know in Australia, don't tell me, stop it. Anyways, I know in Australia they call like baby cribs, like you know the cribs that you put children in. They call them cots.
Cots.
Right. So it's pronounced privacy.
Privacy.
Oh. Right. So
well, we have a privacy fence that provides no privacy.
Right.
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 Oh my gosh. Say goodnight.
Well, I don't want to get you guys too excited before your bedtime, so I think I'm going to stop there. Don't want to get too excited.
No, you can't. You can't get them too excited because then they're not able to sleep.
Exactly.
Good night, my dear.
Say goodnight.
Good night, everyone. Have splendid dreams. Hope you dream of tea and crumpets.
Wow.
Well, that's a
I'll
great
be
one.
right back.
Wow. She blows me away every time I see her. I see this freedom, and it's gorgeous. And I am actually hoping that Ken will come back so that we can wrap things up because I have not had dinner and it's 10:45 here in Texas. It is such a pleasure, Rob. And I got to tell you, when I watched your interview with Ken the other day, all I could think of was the word yes. You know, just yes.
Well, salespeople like to hear that word.
Yeah. So what is your current business? Because I know you've taken a very circuitous path to get there, but you're there in Utah and your business today is what? Because I caught probably the first 3/4 of that interview and I had to leave and I told Ken I have not watched the end part yet. So what are you currently doing now?
Well, the name of the business is Game Face or Game Face Incorporated. And we are celebrating here in a couple of months. In fact, it'll be 2 months from today, our 25th anniversary.
Wow.
And so we relocated to Salt Lake from Portland 4 years ago for business reasons and some personal reasons, family, etc. But we continue to work with the sports industry. About 50% of our clients are professional sports teams and athletic departments. And then the other 50% or so are what I would call real businesses, right? From all kinds of different industries, diverse companies, large and small. So we're just, I will admit, we had, Glenn, we had a record year planned for this year based on bookings and engagements. And like most other people's business, COVID is hit us hard. You're sitting home right now. You're not on set because of COVID. And
right.
So it has hurt our business because it's hurt our clients' business. And many of our clients have had significant layoffs and furloughs and things like that, which obviously affects the work that we can do with an organization. If there's no one to train, then a training business, we have to do some other things. So it's been a good opportunity for us. In fact, it's been a fabulous opportunity for us this year to develop and invent new services. And I don't mean, I shouldn't say new services, I should say new deliverables of our services.
Right.
So we've taken advantage of this quote downtime so that when the green light comes back on for the economy, I mean, really comes back on, as well as for our clients and even our new prospects, we're going to be so much better prepared on that day than we were on March 1st of this year. So I'm grateful, and we're just working through, like everyone else, just working through this challenging time, but not sitting on our hands. And, you know, one of the things you were saying earlier about why we're smitten with successful people, is that
instead of activated by it.
exactly, is that what are you two doing tonight and every weekend? You're not, please forgive me, Glenn, you're not watching television.
Right.
You're doing something. You're not looking at other people do something. You're doing something. You're not staring at your phones. You're not just surfing the net. You're activating yourselves, and so you're removing distractions. And there are so many distractions in our lives today. Technology has been technology is a game changer for the world, for each of us. But it's also it can be a huge hindrance to becoming our best self because it's so distracting. And so the fact that you two continue to produce great content and guidance to people, even on a Saturday night at 10:45 Central Time, that's commendable. But that's simply a model we all should be following. And so at GameFace, my company, I've never been busier, Glenn, than I am right now because I'm doing everything I can to get ready for the end of this, pandemic, so that we burn rubber getting out of the start line when we have permission to do so.
I think there are 3 prototypes, and Ken's heard me talk about this. There are 3 prototypes that appear during chapters such as this. And certainly this is unprecedented. It's so extreme. But there have been lesser versions of this where we feel, we'll call it metaphorically, the tide has gone out. And there are 3 responses to the tide going out. And it's part of a chapter I wrote in my book, and it's called The Tide. And it's about the mature understanding, just like there's a mature understanding to what nerves are and what they are not, that we covered earlier in this conversation. But with regard to the tide going out in our lives, so in early March, the tide went out. And of course, tide happens. It's hardly an original concept. And if we have some measure of what tide is and what it isn't, then we fare better and we don't overreact during a time where the tide is out. So prototype 1, if you've just moved in to the house that sits beachside, and I am speaking in metaphor, but when the tide goes out, that first prototype, the first thing they do is sell the boat. So they've got a little boat, and I'm talking about a little boat, not a fancy boat. It's a little boat that sits tied up to their dock. And now it's been a couple of hours and the tide hasn't come back in, and all they have is sand under the boat, and the water's edge is all the way out beyond the dock. So now they want to part with the dock and the house and the whole thing because this is not what they thought it would be. Because when they came to visit the property, they happened to be there during high tide and the water was up there, and all their photographs show the water up there. So they panic when they see the change in the tide. That's type 1. Type 2 are the people who understand the tide and they go, that's no big deal. The tide is out. So they are indifferent to it. That's type 2. And then type 3, which are the kinds that I'm hoping to cultivate with my coaching, are the people who go, hey, cool, time to work on the boat. And so they are opportunistic in their handling of the time the tide is out. And this is essentially what you're saying you're doing with your company. You guys have been working on the boat. So not only can you work on the boat, but you can actually work on it a lot easier when the water's out. So it actually facilitates a better opportunity to fix the boat and to identify its leaks, to buff it, to sand it, to fix the leaks, to repaint it, whatever it needs. And you know what? While I'm at it, I've got a little extra time because this has gone on longer than we thought. Let's go ahead and repair the dock as well. And let's start fixing things that we can't fix during high tide. To me, this is an indicator of resourcefulness. And man, among the things that COVID has certainly challenged us and measured us, by is, or measured for us, is our resourcefulness. Do you know that by the second week of March, we had transformed the program to being an online program entirely? And we were in a physical building. So I had a physical building we met at in Salt Lake City. We had a physical building in Los Angeles. The series put an end to Salt Lake City for me 2 years prior to, because I got this series that was taking me to Atlanta, and my physical body just can't be in all of those locations. The same thing happened as their demands increased. I had to phase out the LA workshop and outsourced it to someone else. But the Dallas workshop has been in play all this time. And when COVID kicked in, it was like, well, that's the end of a physical building, but it's up to me as to whether or not it's the end of my workshop. And I'm not interested in seeing it come to an end. Therefore, my resourcefulness is being called upon. So what it comes down to is, hey, Big Daddy, what you gonna do about it? Because you don't like it. And I don't know anybody who does, but we have to work within things we don't like at times. So no, I don't like it, but I also don't argue what is. And this is going on. Therefore, since it is, what you gonna do? And we moved it online, and that honestly is when the heavens sent me this beautiful man here. Ken Walls entered my life, and he gave me the full tutorial, because I didn't know an online course from a hole in the ground. And he gave me an evening tutorial on a Saturday night and said, here's Zoom.
And Sunday.
And I had never even heard of it. Feel free to expand the story to your benefit.
It's part of Monday. But
and we started training. So we started Saturday night, and I held my first online course 2 days later. And all he did was help me fix the boat while the water was out. And we went and set sail first thing Monday morning. So sitting around and crying about the awfulness of things, and I'm not criticizing anybody else. We can cry all we want about the condition, but the tears are not enhancing my life. So I miss hugging people a lot. But until this is gone, we've got to come up with, we got to put on our, I use the expression thinking cap. And Carolyn, my wife, she said, man, I haven't heard that in years. I said, baby, it's time we got to put on our thinking cap. And this is what we came up with. And now here's what's amazing. The studio is even more successful because it knows no physical restrictions.
Yes.
So there are no more zip codes now. And it used to have to be that it's just people that are in the North Texas area. We did have people drive in from Oklahoma City 3 hours every week. We had people come in from Austin 3 hours, but pretty much not more than that. And now we have
driving physically.
Now we have, they were physically driving to be there. They were getting up at 8 o'clock in the morning in Austin, getting in their car. They were there at the studio by 11. We opened at 11:30. But man, now all they have to do is go into the kitchen, and the workshop is in their kitchen.
Yeah.
In Austin. And it's beautiful.
You've taken it to a whole nother level now, and you've got.
Well, I'll have Rob come by and be a visitor, and he can come check out what we do.
You'd love it, Rob. It's freaking amazing.
I'm sure. Well, you just illustrated, Glenn, what I was trying to suggest earlier. I love your three types, by the way, of the tide going out.
Right.
Of how we can react to that. But this is exactly what I'm saying. You can sit there and stare at your phone and, look at TikTok. No offense to Abigail, but you can look at TikTok all night, or, you can watch squirrels on water ski, or you can actually ask and demand of yourself that I'm going to take advantage of this moment in time. And I'm going to, in some cases, I'm going to reinvent, or I'm just going to find something in me that's been dormant and opportunities have not allowed me to explore yet.
Right.
And so opportunism, being opportunistic, is usually a term that suggests that you're winning at someone else's expense, but not in this way, not in the way you just described it. So that's why I said earlier, I'm grateful I'm not grateful that people are being hurt financially and certainly health-wise from a pandemic. I'm not grateful that our kids aren't being educated like they should be, et cetera.
Agreed.
But I'm grateful that it gives all of us an opportunity to improve and to rethink. And so if we're not taking advantage of that right now, we're missing an opportunity that may never come back in our lifetime.
Well, to use your own wording, there is everything wrong with winning at someone else's expense, but there is everything right with winning at someone else's expense.
Amen.
I mean, it's huge. Just if we're playing the role in the expansion of others, and we've been real committed to do that. Hey, Rob, I want to tell you, and I'll, after we wrap this up, which is going to be now because I got to go eat, Ken, but if you'll stay on with us when we shut it down, I want to give you my contact and let you know that we meet on Mondays and Tuesdays. And by the way, any of you that are watching, you're certainly welcome to reach out to me on Facebook, but we meet on Mondays and Tuesdays. I teach a total of 4 classes, so you have 4 to choose from, just to come by and just watch. Drop in, be a fly on the wall, and if you ever want to come tell your story as a speaker, if you just want to come give us a little Q&A, we'd love to have you. But even if you want to just chill and sit at the back of the room without an introduction or anything and just watch, you can do it on Zoom. We meet at 10:30 a.m. your time on Monday and Tuesday, and we meet at, I'm going Mountain Time now, and then we meet at 5:30 p.m. each day. So I'm in front of my computer from 11:30 in the morning till midnight, both days. And then I have someone else take over when I'm away and need to get back to work. But I haven't been on a set since March.
Well,
Justin said, put me down for a fly on the wall.
Oh, Justin wants to be a fly on the wall?
That's funny.
Yeah.
Very kind invitation, Glenn. I'm going to take advantage of it. So thank you. And without giving away too much as well, I'm actually emceeing a sports industry event that was supposed to take place in Dallas this fall, in your hometown.
Oh, wow.
We're now doing it virtually. It's attended by thousands of sports executives from around the world. It's a 3-day conference, and the organizers, I'm not an organizer, but I've attended occasionally over the last 30 years. But they've contacted me and asked me if I would MC the virtual 3-day conference.
Wow. Beautiful.
And Glenn, you need to be a speaker at our conference.
Love to be.
So I'll look forward to getting your contact information. I'd love to arrange that with you. I want to thank you and Ken for inviting me with about 4.5 minutes notice tonight.
That's more than we give to most.
Yeah, that's right.
So you know.
Right.
Well, then most aren't as smart as me because I demanded 4.5 minutes.
Yeah.
But it's really been a pleasure, guys.
It's been
and
awesome.
it's been an honor for you to let me just hang out with you for a couple of hours on a Saturday night. I have some explaining to do as to why my wife hasn't seen me for a while. She has no idea what I'm doing right now.
Oh, she does.
Well, how about if you show her a piece of the playback and then you say, that's what I've been doing?
Yeah, then she'll be proud of me. But you both are very generous, and I want to thank your audience as well for putting up with this person they didn't know before tonight and allowing me to be on the screen with you. So thank you.
You're awesome, dude. Well, I'm going to go ahead and end the live stream. So thank you to everybody who shared this out. And everybody needs to send Rob an email and ask him why I shouldn't be a speaker there too. All right. So have a great.
I knew that was coming.
Sorry, you did it publicly. So am I.
No, I'm being serious now. I'm being serious, Ken. You and I are going to talk.
I know. Dude, I know. I am totally kidding, man. I'm totally kidding. Anyway, so thank you guys. And anybody, Glenn, do you want me to give out the email address to anyone?
Yeah, I can give it out right now.
Do you want to do that?
Yeah, I don't mind.
Okay.
They can reach out to us at Budipity. I'll spell it BUDIPITY. It looks like Bud I Pity, but that's not what it is. It's budipity@aol.com. And we will let you know what's what. But your first audit is free, and after that, we charge a very, very reasonable amount. And right now, we don't have performer slots, but people come in as observers at a reduced rate, and they learn just as much watching the scene study class, and it's about life enhancement. And then when a slot does open up, we pull them right off the runway of people that have been what we call non-performing members. And it's great. It's great. They meet with me one time a week.
It's amazing.
4 different classes. And I have a few hardcores who attend all 4 for the same price. There are a few. And Roxy Maddox comes to mind because Roxy does not miss class. And she's there all 4 days. And of course, what happens is it puts them on a fast track. If they're, yes, we've got mail. That's correct, Hyena. So we don't have too many of those. Most people do 1 a week with me, and it's just a real blessing in all of our lives. All right, Ken. So Rob, hang loose. We're going to sign off.
Hang on, Rob. We'll see you guys later.
We'll see you tomorrow night.
Yes, tomorrow night on the Ken and Glenn Show with a guy named Scott, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 5 p.m. Pacific. If you live anywhere in between there, you're going to have to figure it out.
Hey,
have a great night.
Ken, put on our video because Rob hasn't seen it.
Oh, yeah. Let me go out our video. And then, Rob, don't hang up on us. We will chat with you after we end this. So see you guys tomorrow night. Thanks so much.
You guys have a great weekend.
Bye-bye.